mandate gives government to lock down a public service like this?
First of all, I have personally been incited by the submission by the old man. It has been with outright clarity. What we need to describe to our population is the fact that what is happening are not mistakes by government. When you are considering the cause and effect principle, this is a choreographed procedure that intends to deliver a delusional belief by the population in a democracy, while at the same time it curtails it in a very clever manner. For example, I remember I came here and some time ago spoke to the population here. I told them, here in Uganda, we don't have a democracy. What we have are processes that have been cleverly choreographed to give a semblance of a democracy, because their democratic tendencies maintained by government, while at the same time establishing authoritarian rule that has the capacity to maintain it in power. We hold periodic elections, while the quality of such elections really cannot guarantee a free and fair result. That is called a democradula, or a dictablanda, where dicta, of course, now is developed from a dictatorship, and the blanda is a soft. Blanda refers to soft. These are processes that have been described over time.
So if we don't have Honorable Mbidde, if we don't have an election, as also Andrew mentioned about it, that almost the result is predetermined, what is the alternative?
Incidentally, for me now, my fundamental belief is that of good governance, where good governance is determined in accordance to results. Because for me, I believe Africa cannot deliver a substantially free and fair election, because leaderships are inclined to maintain each other in power. To that end, it is foolhardy for anybody to expect them to deliver a democratic process that is believable. So for me, if you asked me, I belong to a political party, but at the subconscious level of my brain, I don't believe in parties. That is number one. I participate in democratic tendencies, but I find them Sisyphean and completely enigmatic for me to understand. That a result of an election determines the next leadership. For me, considering what we call the low relative political maturity of the masses, I find them incapable of taking a decision on the next governance. Completely incapable. For example, for me, I have never won an election where voters are below senior 6 or its equivalent. I've always won an election wherever voters are above senior 6. Right from the time when I was guild president, I have won the East African Legislative Assembly parliamentary race twice for 10 years. I have been elected vice president of DP in a delegates conference of majority, senior 6 and above, and opposed almost 4 times. But when it comes to the Wazoks and the Palokas taking a vote, I have not won. So for me, I believe it is definitely foolhardy for me to expect them, because now, what is the legislative agenda for Uganda? Vis-a-vis what is happening in the whole world, for example. I was looking at what Elon Musk discussed in the Saudi Investment Forum. For him, between the period of 10 to 20 years, money will be optional, work will be optional, all work is going to be robotized, and now we must now be in a position to legislate on the cost of AI. How many of those MPs are going to take a decision of that nature? The job apocalypse that is going to befall Uganda, how many of those are going to legislate? So for me, government has been given both the knife and the yam. It is up to them now to take a decision on the future of Uganda. The population cannot do that. So me, if you asked for my honest views, government is doing what it has to do in order to stay in power. They don't stifle freedoms, but they curtail them. They don't establish visible fanfaronnades, gasconades, blockades against freedoms, but they do it in such a way that it is not visible, but it happens anyway. They will allow you free speech without the forum on which you are going to air out your freedoms. For example, during election period, it is very unlikely that opposition sentiments will find their way in much of the media houses. Either directly or indirectly, somehow all media houses adopt a principle of fear is life. Now that means clearly opposition statements will not find themselves on the media house platforms. The resultant effect, therefore, for me, I begin to look at good governance. I want a situation where brilliant minds like Papa Andrew Mwenda can find themselves in positions of leadership. He cannot subject himself to that vote by the locals. They will never understand him, first of all, and he will find himself almost incited into using extra measures in order for him to win. The pastor here will not find, when you listen to Madame Seninde, you find that she almost really requires, it is a requirement that she should have to be in parliament, for example, to legislate for future, for posterity of Uganda. There is going to be a problem. And I think government now has the way forward to give in terms of what Uganda, they have managed to stay for long. As to whether or not they will manage to have delivered Uganda into a better status tomorrow, it is still incumbent upon them. Today, the President of the Republic of Uganda has campaigned. And we had, you remember we were here, and I told the opposition that, first of all, this is going to be a different election, because in this one, the president is going to participate. 2021, he never participated. He was hiding and dodging COVID. So he definitely never participated that much. He was doing what he calls a smart campaign, convene a population of 50 people, a congregation of 50 people per district. I address them, following SOPs, check for COVID for all of them. I mean, that was not a proper campaign. In this campaign, he has really campaigned. He campaigned and ran an issue-based campaign while the opposition, we were not unanimous on a message, first of all. We were not unanimous on whether he must go. We were even not unanimous on which president should actually be voted for. Now, in that kind of enigmatic behavior, which population would know what to do? And that is what happened. When you asked, for example, for me, the reason why, for example, in the Democratic Party, and this is the democradula I am talking about, that it is authoritarian rule established where, for example, instead of forcible curtailment of freedoms, the government adopts, it is authoritarian, but it adopts mechanisms of dialogue, indirectly, in order to, for purposes that they can remove opposition centrifugal forces. What was the resultant effect? Parties like mine, for example, we, the top leadership, looked for President Museveni's votes, meaning we were not unanimous on his departure as the opposition. We were not unanimous. Two, we were not unanimous on which president should replace him. You cannot ask me that this man should go. Who must replace him? Any of these ones. I think for me that one looks like guesswork. We ought to have been unanimous. In a situation of that nature, which is outright confusion, the President of the Republic of Uganda becomes again the best choice for anybody without civic education. He just seems the fulcrum of stability, and that's it. We must find a way of having a Uganda that is better for us and even for those yet unborn. The role that government has is to create the best country tomorrow. Those that are involved in the innermost sanctums of state power need to tell the president it is now his role to create a Uganda that he fought for. He has now been given back in 1986. That's it. This is 1986 for him. He must now take a decision because there is no opposition sentiment that is believable. NUP, which would have been the leading opposition political outfit, for example, is itself guided by this kind of pontification and panjandram, you know, gladiatorial circus. And that cannot generate an alternative for a government that has stayed for 40 years, has established fundamental freedoms. At least there is absence of war that is believable, where there have been all attempts to bring war to our doorsteps.
But Honorable Mbidde, so, you say that the president is the fulcrum right now.
Right now.
5 years from now, 2031, he will be 86 years old.
Yes.
What does that leave the country looking like?
No, for me, I am happy you invited even the man of God. Because clearly now we need even the intervention of God. The participation in terms of governance is not necessarily going to depend on those that the people have elected. It is impossible. Because those that have been elected are now living a life in such a way that they are extremely happy, and of course they are going to be in a learning environment. And yet problems of a country vis-a-vis the whole world order cannot wait. The bishop knows that Jesus left disciples. We have bishops. We have sheikhs. Incidentally, I've never seen a bishop on behalf of Satan, but he has followers. So in my opinion, I don't know. He will have, we need prayers. Because even Satan has followers and he has a message. I remember in one of the, in the Bible, there was a time when he wanted to hand over land titles of a city to Jesus in the event that he accepted to eat. But at the same time, Jesus owned the whole world. So if somebody wants to give you titles of the world that you actually own, you find that he has a mouthful of what to say, but which is a complete nuisance. Government has a role to play in terms of going forward. What has happened is not a mistake. It was choreographed. It is a result. Let now government deal with this result, at least for posterity.
So where does this leave the opposition?
Where is the opposition? Because it is generally merely by nomenclature. It doesn't exist. Except you would tell me that we have got alternative opinions. When you listen to the opinions of Andrew Mwenda, you think he's actually the leader of opposition. Because those are the views that we ought to have.
He has a noob card.
I am the president of Noob. But Bob Wine and Joel Senyonyi stole my votes. After they rigged me out, also Museveni rigged them out, which was payback time.
Were your votes 2.7 million?
No, mine were more than that, 20 million.
Yes, lastly, Honorable Mbidde.
So we need to first of all reconfigure our own selves. We are dealing with the relative political maturity of the masses. So they can't definitely have a decision to make. Who must be the directing mind and the will of the next status of affairs?
Okay.
It must not be the leaders where the population know what to do. But because the population are completely unaware, they do not know how to adapt themselves to a changed state of affairs. It is now going to be cadre-based to determine a direction for Uganda.
Thank you. Let me come to Andrew. Andrew, I hope that in the future we can have a conversation about Uganda Airlines. I've seen some of the things you've said about it. I hope you can come back to have that conversation. But